Episode 2 of Game of Wool dropped on Sunday, and I dare say it was better than episode 1. Hey everyone, it's Hannah, and today I'm going to be talking to you about episode 2 of Game of Wool, the new knitting TV show that is gracing UK TV screens, 8 p.m, Channel 4 on a Sunday. Quite a lot has happened since the last time I spoke to you regarding Game of Wool. I say quite a lot. A few things have happened. First up, Gordon, who was the very first contestant to be cast off, has come out with a video of his very own talking about the reasons he was cast off. There was a bunch of stuff we didn't see because of editing, and talked a little bit more about steeking and made steeking a lot less scary for me, which now is making me want to steek something. I might have to give it a go. If you haven't already, please go and watch Gordon's video. It's very informative. It's very interesting. He's come out with another one since. I have not watched that one yet. Full disclaimer, I haven't had the time. We've had all sorts of illness and fun times in this household since I've last talked to you. And I was ill the last time I talked to you. I've also had my hair done. Turns out Rowan, who brought out the pattern for the colourwork vests, not paying the people who have come out with the designs. Well, I mean, they haven't explicitly said we're not paying them, but they have said that their contract is with Game of Wool and not the individual contestants, which to me makes it sound like the contestants aren't getting paid. So, big ick. Thirdly, Shetland's organisation for knitters. I hadn't heard of them before, but I love that it exists. For those who don't know, Fair Isle is a term, it's a heritage craft from the Shetland Isles here in the UK, and they want to try and keep Fair Isle as Fair Isle, which I completely understand, and I love that. There's too many heritage crafts at the moment that are being forgotten, left behind. And so organisations like this are so important. They have written a post. I don't know if they wrote a letter. It's been talked about in the news a fair amount. I guess, I don't know. It's come up in the news for me, maybe because I'm a knitter and I watch the show. Their complaints are that Fair Isle was not accurately portrayed at all. The term that they actually should have used was stranded colourwork. Fair Isle is a very particular type of stranded colourwork, but Fair Isle itself is not stranded colourwork. Fair Isle typically uses 2 colours per row, and the floats usually extend to no longer than 6 stitches, so you don't have these long floats at the back. Another one of their complaints is that they made steeking or cutting your knitting, because steeking is apparently not a term that's used in the Shetland Isles. Steeking, they've made it seem really, really scary, and they made it look like that the reason that Gordon was cast off was because of the steeking, when that was not accurate at all. He did the technique correctly. It would have worked. Gordon showed that it would have worked on his video, and they've made steeking look like it's this big scary thing, when actually it's a fully acceptable thing to do and is very traditionally done in Fair Isle knitting. Thirdly, peery. This is not a term I'd heard before. It's an adjective, not a noun. So people were talking about, oh, the peeries here are very nice, blah, blah, blah. It's an adjective. It's not a noun. So it's a peery pattern, and it's a term used in Fair Isle. It's the small patterns. That's what it translates. I don't know if it literally translates, but that is what it equates. The small patterns in Fair Isle are known as peery patterns. They're not known alone as peery. And maybe some people will be like, these are such small non-issues, such small things. And whilst I kind of get it from an outside perspective that maybe it's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things, it is really important to use these terms properly and correctly, especially when you are talking about a heritage craft and you're a UK show and it's a UK heritage craft. These things are a little important. With that said, a lot of the other discourse that I have heard about Game of Wool, I feel like are people taking the show a little bit too seriously. And maybe I came across as taking the show a bit too seriously last week, but I enjoyed episode 2 significantly more than episode 1. And hopefully it will just keep increasing. But I've seen the little snippet of episode 3 and I'm hesitant. I will hold judgment until I watch the episode. So should we get into talking about episode 2? Probably. Otherwise this video is going to be 10 hours long. Episode 2. I got my notes. Icons Week. Icons Week. It looks like there's going to be a theme every week. I didn't know if they might do like a different knitting technique every week, which I think would be, I don't know, maybe not more interesting. Maybe that's not the right term. But it's a bit more accurate to Bake Off, but maybe not accurate to Sewing Bee. But we have Icons Week. First thing I noticed is that Tom Daley is not wearing any of his own knits. Now, is this potentially because it could be seen as advertising because he sells a lot of kits for his own patterns? But I find it, or I don't know, I find it very, very interesting that he's not wearing his own knitwear. Also, I really want to know what eyeshadow he's wearing in this episode. It's so sparkly. I love it. But he's wearing a very chunky roving cardigan, which is made by Northern Irish designer Hope McCauley. And I've seen her knits on TikTok a few times. And there's a really interesting program actually on BBC iPlayer at the moment talking about this knitwear designer and how she uses a lot of local knitters to help create her pieces. I generally hate the idea of roving for a garment, and the people that I've seen wearing them on TikTok and such, they do not wear well. They pill terribly, and I imagine they wash terribly too. So I just find it interesting that Tom Daley's not wearing his own knits. But maybe it is an advertising thing. Once again, we have solo challenge, group challenge. That's going to be the same every week, I think. In the solo challenge this week, they have 12 hours to make a dog jumper and hat headpiece. I think this is a great challenge. When I initially saw it, I was like, what? A dog jumper? But it makes complete sense. It's testing the contestants, or challenging the contestants, to show how well they can fit garments to an obscure thing. It's obscure, not saying dogs are obscure, but not many people have knit dog jumpers in their life. I mean, I'm sure there's a good chunk of people that have, but in the grand scheme of things, not that many people. They were given the dimensions beforehand, and so they were able to come up with the pattern and come up with the design at home, and then they had 12 hours to make it in the yarn barn. The contestants had to use a combination of knitting and crochet. Most people did majority knitting with a crochet embellishment or something. That's absolutely fine. It didn't have to be 50-50. I do find it, I proceed to find it interesting that the tagline is Britain's best knitter, and it shouldn't be. For one, it should be like Britain's best amateur knitter. Like Britain's best amateur baker, like on Bake Off. I'm just great reaching for my tea. Because I feel like saying Britain's best knitter has made some people take this show a little bit more seriously than it needs to. People don't watch Bake Off and think, oh, that person's never baked a souffle. How are they in the running to become Britain's best baker? But people are saying, that person's never knit colour work. How are they in the run to being Britain's best knitter? I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. With that said, there are a couple of contestants in this episode who mention they've either not been knitting for very long, or then they're not as comfortable with knitting as they are with crochet. And it does lead me to wonder, how did they get on the show in the first place? A little bit. Why have we used AI? Why have we used AI on this show? They were talking about the difference, Tom Daley was talking about the difference between knitting and crochet, and two illustrations came up. They must have been AI. There's two sets of knitting needles showing the knitting, and then the crochet hook looked so like odd, deformed. It didn't look like a crochet hook. Why are we using AI on a TV show? Thank you very much. We do not need to. Hire an artist. Take a photo. You're in a yarn barn. Take a photo of someone holding needles and someone holding a crochet hook. Just take a photo. Good news, it's not chunky yarn this week. It's not chunky yarn. How exciting. Can you imagine a tiny dog in chunky yarn? They'll be like this. They've got to make jumpers for two Italian greyhounds who are absolutely adorable. They're so cute. I love them. They also look like they'd be quite cold a lot of the time, so probably a good shout to make them little jumpers. It looks like a lot of people are choosing to use Aran or DK weight yarn. Some people are choosing really like fun and jazzy fuzzy yarn, like tinsel yarn. And the idea is to make something inspired by something iconic to you. So that could be a person, that could be a place, that could be a landmark. And I love that the openness of this challenge. We have doggy jumpers inspired by Notting Hill Carnival. We have doggy jumpers inspired by unicorns, Freddie Mercury, David Bowie, the Duke of Wellington with a traffic cone on his head. I love the variety. Holger's chosen some, to me, obscure, but probably not obscure, 18th century Italian comedy that I've forgotten the name of. I love it. So niche. I find it slightly interesting that Dipti has chosen to do sort of all over tinsel yarn for the body of the unicorn jumper. It looks really, really cool, but it does make me question, because she said she is much more comfortable with crochet than knitting. And she knit the body. It does make me question if she chose that yarn because it hides her stitches a little bit. There's a little bit more focus on technique today, whereas people are knitting their doggy jumpers. This is probably due to the fact that we've already met all the contestants, so we don't need their backstories. And we actually get to talk a little bit more about what they're knitting, which is fun. There's a great variety of knitting techniques in this challenge. We have a bit of intarsia, we have mosaic crochet, we've got lace, we've got textured stitches like moss stitch, and we have cables. And I love seeing the wide variety of techniques used in this challenge. It makes it much more interesting viewing to those of us who knit, who are watching the show, instead of everyone just making the same thing. Di and Sheila, the judges, come over to Meadow and comment on the fact that she is twisting her stitches, and Meadow had no idea. The slick way to play this would have been, oh yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit of texture to the item. But she had no idea that she was twisting her stitches. And twisting her stitches is, I mean, it can be done intentionally. The rib on this isn't twisted, but I find it very interesting that someone was chosen to be on the show who was such a new knitter that she didn't even know she was twisting her stitches. And I just find that a little bit wild, I'll be honest. I also found it interesting that the judges said that moss stitch is one of the hardest stitches to get to make even. I mean, I know they're much more prolific knitters than I am, but I do disagree a little bit. I do disagree. Just a smidge. I've written yes, Holger, and I don't fully understand why I've written that. I think it's just because I really love his finished item. I've written yes, Holger, and I don't know why. For the critiques of this first challenge, the judges were much more critical, I guess because they had more time on the show. The show had more time to show the criticism and the feedback. It was much more interesting as a knitter to learn why something worked, didn't work, so on and so forth. I think Lydia's doggy jumper was really, really fun with the lace, with the feather and fan lace, and it had a bit of the tinsel in as well, but not too much. And I think the feather and fan, her inspiration was Notting Hill Carnival, and I think that the feather and fan worked really, really well to show the beautiful costumes that people wear at the Notting Hill Carnival. I really like Ailsa's as well. I didn't know that the Duke of Wellington with the traffic cone on his head inspired so many graffiti artists, and so that I found that really, really interesting. I love the graffiti across the back in the dog's name. I thought it was really, really fun. Holger's was really, really fun. I love that as well. I really wish Simon had practiced the crochet stained glass window, because I think it would have looked amazing, but he did say he was going to wing it. Next up, we have the team knit. I think the team knit this week much better than the team knit last week. They had 10 hours once again. They were given a basic 80s jumper pattern, and they had to make an intarsia jumper out of mohair, which is horrendous to do. What? It's really funny because I've literally been saying, I've been thinking it for weeks, but literally on Sunday morning, I was saying to Marriott, we walked past a charity shop and it was closed, unfortunately. And there was this really fun, colourful 80s jumper. And I said to Marriott, oh, I really, really wish, I really, really want to make myself a really like jazzy 80s obnoxious jumper. And then this was the challenge, and I was like, maybe this is a sign. I think this might be a sign. 10 hours to make a jumper. The way to do this is someone knits the front, someone knits the back, someone knits the sleeves. And apparently that's doable in 10 hours. They had to design the thing as well in 10 hours. Once again, they were given the initial pattern. They then just had to design the intarsia for the front. Meadow, Stephanie and Ailsa went for a music design with a guitar on the front, music notes up the sleeves and on the back. Simon, Isaac and Dipti came up with balloons. They had balloons on the front. They did one sleeve shorter, one sleeve longer, two balloons on the front, one balloon on the back, potentially. And then they had like fun with the string. Very fun. And then Lydia, Holger and Tracy did like a checkerboard design, and very effective. Now, the contestants soon found that 10 hours was not actually long enough by the time they got started. So sleeves were omitted, a single sleeve was omitted, and adaptations were made. we love to see it. We love to see thinking on the fly. It was probably edited in to be more dramatic than it was, but there was some tension between Tracy and Holger. Lydia looked a little bit like she was stuck in the middle, a little bit awkward, but Tracy wanted to add embellishments. She loves an embellishment. In all fairness, the 80s loved an embellishment as well. And Holger did not want an embellishment in the slightest. So there was a little bit of tension and drama there. Turns out they had to add an embellishment anyway because they could only get one sleeve made. So they added a little bow on the shoulder. Delightful. Meadow and Elsa were knitting the front and the back, and Meadow made it difficult for herself because she decided to knit the guitar on the front, having never done intarsia before. We love the drive. We love the enthusiasm, but sometimes you have to admit when you can't do something. Partway into the challenge, Ailsa and Meadow discovered that what they were going to do was, Stephanie didn't think she could do 2 sleeves, so they were going to stop the body under the arm, do decreases across, and put like a strap to make it off the shoulder fun and funky. Delightful. Ailsa and Meadow were decreasing on different sides, so it wouldn't have lined up in the slightest. This caused Meadow to have, I mean, it might have been a plethora of different things, who knows. It wasn't really her day, and I think she put a lot of pressure on herself, but she had to go and step outside. Tom Daly gave her a bit of a pep talk, which, I mean, it was actually quite nice, the little pep talk, because he's a competitive diver. If you don't know, he's a 5-medal winning Olympic diver. He is an Olympian. And so he understands competition and he understands the pressure of a competition. So it was quite nice that he was able to give her a bit of a pep talk. The problem is because he's not a presenter, he does come across as quite patronising, and I don't think he means to. I just think that he does. I also suffer with this affliction. Sometimes, I think this is partly just because I'm a bit posh, and I do not live in a place where the accent is posh. Heads up, I live in Nottingham. The accent is not the poshest. No offence, Nottingham people. Being posh isn't necessarily seen as better than. Let's just get that out there right now. But it does mean sometimes when I'm being genuinely enthusiastic, or I am just being genuine, it comes across as very patronising and sarcastic. And I never mean to be. Sometimes I mean to be. I rarely mean to be. So maybe he just suffers the same affliction as I do. Meadow steps back in. Stephanie has done some of the rows to help her catch up a little bit. And they managed to get a jumper on a model. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look great. I did prefer this challenge to the last challenge because someone knit the front, someone knit the back, someone knit the sleeve, bracket sleeves. And I think that that is better because then you could clearly see who has knit what and judge them accurately for their knitting. Holger is announced as big knitter for his doggy jumper and hat. Meadow, unfortunately, is cast off. And I think that was the right choice in this episode. Overall, thought this episode was much, much better. I felt much more inspired after. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to make a doggy jumper, but I loved the 80s jumpers. I think they were really, really fun. I'm not making a jumper entirely out of mohair though. No, thank you. And yeah, it was just very fun to see and it was enjoyable to watch. Now, they show a little snippet of what's coming next week and I think I'm going to hate it. It looks like it's good. I mean, I'm holding judgment till I watch it. I don't know if I preferred the show this week because I already watched last week, so I kind of knew what to expect. Or what? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I had too high expectations for last week, and then this week, kind of, I knew what was coming, and therefore I enjoyed it a little bit more. Maybe that's the case. Who knows? I still don't know how many days it was filmed over, so I need to ask and find out about that. And next week, I believe it's crochet week. They have to crochet a deck chair. And they have to crochet swimwear for Olympic swimmers. Why? Why are we doing that? We don't need to do that. Thank you very much. It was pointed out to me that this show is both for beginner knitters and those of us who are old hat at knitters. Apparently a bunch of people who don't knit who have watched the show are now inspired to start knitting, so that is very exciting. And yeah, it's also a TV show, so it also has to be entertaining. It has to get the ratings in, it has to get the views. The first season of Bake Off wasn't fantastic. You know? Someone said that they don't understand why they don't have everyone make the exact same pattern for the first challenge. And I think it's just because if you are a competent enough knitter, following a pattern is like the easy bit. Like they do on, like they were saying, like on Sewing Bee, everyone has the same pattern. And I don't know if there's because there's more variety in sewing than there is in knitting, but maybe there's not. I don't know. Other people were saying that a fun addition to this show would be if they had a technical challenge, and I completely agree. I think it would be really, really cool if they said, okay, you have to knit a swatch of this many stitches by this many rows using this technique. And I think that that would be really, really fun. Like 2-colour brioche, like, I don't know, I guess stranded colour work. They're given the chart and they have X amount of time to complete it. I think that that would break it up a little bit. I do think you would have to have an extra half an hour for the show, quarter of an hour for the show to have that fit in. So I do understand why they haven't done that, but I think that that would be really, really fun. A fun way to break it up, a fun way to show different techniques. But yes, that is my summary of episode 2. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. Will you be watching it? I have seen that someone said the episodes are posted on YouTube. So check them out if you're international and you want to give it a watch. I think the show could also do with having a little chat from an expert, but apparently they have hired some people. Some people have been filmed to talk about it, but it will be going up on their YouTube channel. Something else that has happened since last week, the show has come out and posted on Instagram videos of people talking about what they wore in episode 1. It does seem like an afterthought. It does seem like that people were saying, oh, what was so-and-so wearing? What was so-and-so wearing? And so they asked the people to record a little video talking about what they wore in episode 1. And a nice little touch, but I think that they could have done it whilst they were filming the episode on their professional cameras instead of people using their phone cameras. But I'm glad that they listened and put that in. Something I completely forgot to mention is that Wool and the Gang have come out with a kit for the 80s jumper, the winning one of the team challenge. That is Tracy, Lydia and Holger's jumper with the checkerboard. It looks really, really fun. They've come out with a kit. They have credited the designer in their post, but once again, it's unlikely that these people are getting paid. It's becoming clear that these companies are sponsoring the episode, which makes sense. It's a Channel 4 production, so sponsorships is what helps to fund these things. So it does make sense. It says that the sizes are 1 to 4, which upon looking at the sizing chart is up to a UK size 20, which is not size inclusive up to the standard that many of us would like to see. But it's a really fun pattern. It's really, really nice. I do think it's outrageous that it does still feel icky that it is starting to feel a little bit like a cash grab, just how quickly they're releasing the patterns. But at the same time, like from a business perspective, I do understand that. But I also kind of hate it. I'm torn. It's one of those. I will continue to do these videos. I think it's really, really fun and a fun little, I don't know, addition to the channel. So if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more from me, I post a video here usually every single Friday. So it'd be lovely if you stuck around and subscribed. And this week I filmed the video before I got my hair done, so I will be chatting about advent patterns in Friday's video, so keep an eye out for that one. If you'd like to follow me on social media, links can all be found in the description box below, along with anything else that I think you might need. And yeah, please let me know what you think. Will you be continuing to watch it? I think it is important to support these shows. There's knitting on primetime telly. I think it's important to support these shows. And with all that being said, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being amazing. Thank you for being you. And I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye.